Hello and welcome to our Friday Casebook. I'm Lena and I'm going to talk to Roger Casale, founder of New Europeans, because I want to know what happened this week in Europe. Hi Roger, good to see you.
Hi Lena, great to see you. I hope you're keeping well. I hope all our viewers are keeping well. Not too long to go till the Christmas break, so something to look forward to. And in fact, in America, of course, they've been celebrating Thanksgiving.
Yeah, or Friendsgiving, as some people refer to. No, so what's going on there?
Not quite the same this year as in previous years. I think the famous floats outside Macy's in New York are going to be dragged by trucks rather than people this year. But of course, Thanksgiving is the time in America when the president gets to pardon a turkey. And I was very curious to see which turkey Donald Trump was going to pardon this year. And of course, it turned out to be Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor who was in jail in America for lying to the FBI. I mean, that's a little bit like having your head teacher in school for being a sexual predator, I mean, or a pedophile. I mean, lying to the FBI when you're the national security advisor seems to me to be quite a dangerous thing to do. And of course, he was found out, put in prison. But that's the turkey. Michael Flynn is the turkey who Donald Trump has pardoned. He's coming out of jail, and you wonder what else Donald Trump is going to do before he finally leaves the White House, if he ever does. And Biden, of course, is getting on with his transition. And that's good. And he's starting to make the calls to other world leaders. He called Justin Trudeau, but Justin Trudeau thought it was a scam. He thought it was Greta Thunberg trying to trick him again. Well, it wasn't Greta Thunberg. He was tricked into thinking it was Greta Thunberg. So he didn't pick up the phone. And then apparently Biden called the president of Mexico, and he didn't pick up the phone because he thought Biden would want him to pay for the wall, or the little bit of the wall that has been built, and most of it hasn't. So in the end, he called Europe. And of course, Henry Kissinger famously used to say, which number do I call when I call Europe? So which number did Biden call when he called Europe? Well, he called Emmanuel Macron, apparently, was the first one he called.
Really?
And eventually he got to speak to Ursula von der Leyen, and we saw a nice photograph of her with a big smile on her face talking to Joe Biden. And let's hope that some life comes back into the transatlantic relationship again, because we need to talk to the Americans. And you say, talk the talk, walk the walk. They don't have to chew gum at the same time, but we do want them to walk the walk as well as talk the talk. The rhetoric will change under Biden, but we want to see action as well. And we want to see a strengthening of that transatlantic relationship again under the new administration. So I think that's something important to look forward to in the new year. And the other thing to say, of course, just to finish on that, is that Biden said that the Trump team were cooperating with the transition. You know, there've been a lot of stories about past transitions when one president has moved out of the White House and another one has moved in. Apparently, when Clinton made way for George W. Bush, they played some pranks on the Bush team. For example, they took the letter W, off all of the keyboards, and so you're wondering whether Trump's team will do something similar. I mean, but they might decide to take all the J's out, because as we know,
the J does not stand for genius. This is what we learned.
Yeah, they're not stupid. We'll see.
Okay. And if we turn to Europe now, what caught your attention there this week?
Well, we've still got little Victor and little Matthias on the naughty step in Europe, and they've been joined this week by little Yanis, the Prime Minister of Slovenia, who made a name for himself last month when he decided that Donald Trump had won the election. He was the only world leader. I'm sure he is. He qualifies as a world leader, as Prime Minister of Slovenia. Why not? And he was the one who thought Trump had won the election, and now he thinks that. Basically little Victor and little Matthias should be able to continue to break the school rules. And last week we were talking about Angela Merkel, if Europe is a family, Angela Merkel as the mummy. Well, this week we've had the big sister. This week we've had Ursula von der Leyen come along and be quite bossy. I mean, I like it. I think she's great. I think she's got cross. She's got mad with little Victor and little Matthias, and quite right too. And she started to wag her finger at them metaphorically. And I think that's quite right, and tell them that they are breaking the rules, and they shouldn't be so pathetic to think that, you know, just because they've got to obey the school rules, you know, that's not too much to ask, is it? And we'll have to see in December how little Victor and how little Matthias react to that. But I quite like the idea of sort of Ursula von der Leyen as the big sister. I much prefer the idea of a big sister to big brother in Europe. We don't want big brother. We've got big sister in Ursula von der Leyen, and she's quite rightly telling the, you know, little Victor and little Matthias to come into line and to obey the rules.
So you think it's not too late, this reaction?
I think that it's going to be difficult, but I think in the end they will. But of course, they're playing up in other areas as well. I mean, they announced this week, little Matthias and little Victor don't seem to understand that, you know, you can, that people who are gay or lesbian or transgender or queer and are quite capable of having normal, loving human relationships. This point seems to be lost on little Victor and little Matthias, and so they're wanting again to start this discrimination against LGBT and trans people. I mean, it's absolutely shocking. And today there was a debate in the European Parliament about the very restrictive new abortion laws in Poland, condemning that. And so we see European Parliament standing up for us as European citizens. And I think it's a shame. I think, as we said last week, that there are progressive people in Poland and Hungary too. It's not about interfering in their sovereignty, but we don't want to live in a Europe where a woman doesn't have the right to have an abortion, or where there are LGBT-free zones, or where the rule of law isn't recognised. So I think we do want to see Europe take on little Victor and little Matthias, and you know, help to create the Europe that we all want to see, which is a Europe of equality and human rights. Yeah,
I completely agree. Maybe you can, I heard something like good news from Scotland. Well, maybe you should talk about that.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, as you know, I'm not based in the UK anymore. I live in Italy, but if I was still living in the UK, I think I would want to move to Scotland. I mean, first of all, last year they brought out a very progressive approach to migration and asylum, new policies that were developed in consultation with migrants and refugees themselves. And this week they've announced that there'll be free sanitary products for women who can't afford it by law, in schools, universities, for free, and for people who can't afford it. And I think that's a very, very good thing for them to have done, a very smart thing for them to have done, very progressive thing for them to have done. And I think it just goes to show how, again, how Scotland is often ahead of the curve on these things. And if Britain does remain outside the European Union for Kingdom Come, I don't think it will. I think one day it will want to return. But you can understand why Scottish people feel that they want to be, many Scottish people feel that closer to Europe. And I think that was a very, very progressive thing to do, and we should celebrate it. And I was delighted to see that, and very pleased to talk about that on the show.
Roger, maybe let's look ahead. What's coming up?
Well, we're going to finish the year very strongly in New Europeans. We have another Tuesday conversation with Paul Henningsen next week. That's the final one in the current series. We'll be back on the 9th of February with the Tuesday conversation. And then on Friday, the 4th of December, we have the next in our Reflections on the Future of Europe series, where we ask the question, can the EU function as a democracy without forming a state? So that's quite a challenging question, particularly with the idea of the Conference of the Future of Europe, possibly about to start in the new year. And then on Human Rights Day, on the 10th of December, we will have the third in our Quo Vadis, Belarus, Ukraine and Russia series. So tune in for that. That's 6 o'clock Central European time. That's the time in Paris and Prague. 1 hour, it'll be 1 hour 1 hour later, so 1 hour later than that in Kiev, and 1 hour earlier in London. And that's on the 10th of June, where we asked, what should the European Union do to secure and safeguard lives and human rights in Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia?
I watched the last Quo Vadis, and it's definitely worth watching. And I think you can still watch it on Facebook.
See it on Facebook, on New Europeans News Facebook page, and it's there to be seen, or tune in live on the 10th of December, 6 p.m. Paris.
Wonderful. Thank you, Roger, for keeping us informed, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week.
Thank you, Lena. See you next week, and thanks to all our supporters, all our members, all our viewers. Let's keep fighting together for a Europe of the citizens. We really can do this together, and it's great to look forward to seeing you again next week.